Email marketing empowers education institutions by helping them build a strong student network, connect with faculty and alumni, increase the admission requests, and hence the overall engagement. When a renowned university decides to share their best email marketing stories and strategies, there's no way we go without listening. Welcome to the Zoho Campaigns Expert Diaries, and I'm Aishwarya, your host. Today's episode is special because we have two experts with us, Bree Loish and Elaine Armbruster from Ohio State University. Bree is the Associate Email Director and Elaine is the Senior Director of Omnichannel Strategy, and they'll be sharing their insights about email marketing in an education sector. Hello, Bree and Elaine. We're glad to host you both today.
Hi, thanks.
Yeah, thanks for hosting us.
Yeah, so let's start with Elaine. As marketers for education industry, which is very specific, we would love to hear about your experiences handling email marketing for a university. Can you detail about that?
Yeah, sure. So I think it's interesting. We have a lot of different audiences, students, prospective students, faculty, staff, alumni, donors, patients, athletics fans, and that's not abnormal. You know, a lot of businesses have different audiences or people that they talk to, but what's unique about higher education is that we have different goals and priorities for each of those audiences. So for a prospective student, you know, we're trying to get them to apply or to enroll. With students, then you want to keep them engaged throughout the process, help them to graduate. With alumni, then it's keeping them engaged afterwards and making sure that they know about events that are happening or how they can connect with their alma mater. Patients, you know, connecting them to the medical center and the care that they can receive there. So there are a lot of different things that we can say to these people. And so the challenge then is how do we do that, knowing that you could be one or you could be many of those things. And then the unique challenge on top of that is we're very decentralized. So you've got different colleges and units that then are speaking to all of these. And so part of what Bree and I do is to help bring that together and help kind of coordinate some of those touch points and messages. But the great thing is that with all of those different audiences, we are able to learn and test, experiment, you know, what might work for one audience may not work for another. So we're all about the test and learn, and our leadership really empowers us to do that, which is great. So it's a fun environment to be in, talking to all those different audiences.
Wow, that's really interesting because you have very specific goals, and in fact, considering the diverse nature of the audience which you listed, it's going to be dynamic content for each of them, and it's important that each email goes very specifically to that particularly addressed person. And yeah, now that you mentioned about your target audience, say that you have current students, alumni, prospective students, faculty, and many such niche groups. How do you create and maintain such different audience segments, Bree?
Yeah, so I would say it's more about managing the experience among and across those different segments. And as Elaine mentioned, we do have a lot of niche groups that we have targeted messaging for, but most of our audience members actually fall into multiple segments. So where the real fun begins is trying to figure out how to talk to each person as all of the things that they are to Ohio State. So, for example, I am an alumna, I'm a student, a staff member, and I'm also a patient. Elaine is a two-time alumna from two different colleges. She's also a patient, a vet med client, and a fan. So we're a lot of different things to Ohio State and have a lot of different affiliations. So I think the fun part is figuring out how to talk to someone, knowing that they're affiliated with us in multiple ways. And I think for the most part, our audiences are in separate databases, which helps keep segmentation clean, but I think that can also be a challenge for us when we go to try to do integrated marketing efforts. So we're really working toward more advanced personalization and accessible data so we can provide a more streamlined experience according to all the things that our audience members are to us and their relationships with us, and also what they're interested in.
Great. As you said, yeah, people come with different affiliations and a different history. So it's important to connect and find a common pattern and put them into different segments. so that personalization and orchestrating all of your email and workflows would get easier. So good point on that, Bri. So, Elaine, what are some commonly used engagement materials in your emails, and what uniquely have you found that works well for your university?
Yeah, and I don't think this is really unique to university, right? You know, we're talking about personalization, and we find that that works, obviously. But yeah, easier said than done when our data is all over the place and you have decentralized people executing these campaigns. So we're taking an approach where it's baby steps, and instead of trying to boil the whole ocean, it's where can we step in and try something in one area rather than trying to solve for everything. So one of my favorites that we did last year was for our Day of Giving campaign. And prior to that, somebody could receive up to 4 emails in a single day, and that was just because there were a lot of different messages that we're trying to get to people. And so being a very political environment, you want to make sure that your message gets to all the people that it should get to, right? So in the past, it was multiple emails then go to those people, and it was kind of a poor experience for the recipients. So what we did last year was we said, what are all the messages, and how do we then bring those to people within one email? So we use dynamic content to put those relevant messages in front of people so that all of the messages still got out there, but they were in a single email. We ended up with over 5,600 different possible content combinations for an email, and we were able to reduce send volume by 36%, but still increase the open volume for the day by 9%, and then the click volume increased by 151%. And then even better, our conversion was up 140%. So just kind of shows the power of personalization, and that sending more emails is not always the best option. I think that was kind of an eye-opener for some people at the university. Another cool one that we did with personalization was with our Insights newsletter. So there are a lot of different topics within that email, so like health and wellness or science and technology. And what we do is we track your clicks. And so if Bree is continuing to click on health and wellness, then in the future we're going to show her health and wellness subject lines. And we actually saw a 25% higher open rate by doing this, and that translated to a 22% higher click-to-open rate, because once they opened, they saw that thing that they were interested in. So we're doing a lot of fun personalization things to try to engage our audiences. We've tried a few things that haven't resonated as much, so we've tried countdown clocks, and we found that urgency wasn't doing it for the audience. But again, test and learn and try to figure out what works.
Wonderful. I can't thank you enough for stressing on the fact that marketers need to take control over data, because currently I think one of the most common challenges for us as marketers, putting myself into it, is having data in multiple places and having it in silos that you really have to take some time to bundle them up together. So as you mentioned, sending about 4 emails per day to a person is definitely overwhelming, and the solution that you guys resorted to is very interesting, at the same time very encouraging for email marketers. How do you find those niche topics? How do you find those interests of these students or whoever is receiving these emails? And how do you put that information into use in reducing the number of emails, but at the same time having a better impact? Those statistics that you mentioned about 9% open rate, about 151% click rate, that's amazing. It shows the amount of effort that you guys have put into getting a centralized targeting system for your university. And this definitely encourages a lot of them to try this approach.
Yeah, exactly.
So what are your thoughts about the use of storytelling in emails? Because now we've discussed enough about dynamic targeting, personalization, which finally boils down to powerful storytelling in emails.
Yeah, we're definitely all about storytelling, and what's cool about being in higher education is that we have no lack of content. So name a topic and we're able to find content on it, and I think our team does a great job of then helping us do some storytelling and then translating that to email. So it's a great way to really keep your audience engaged without really asking them for something, but rather you're kind of priming them for that next step or what you might need from them down the road. But Bree and I are all about it. Like I said, we wrote a blog post for our university marketing site about storytelling and email and just how it can help build brand perception, really focus in on the trust that you want to build with your audience and help them see you as authentic. And so we try to do that with a lot of the emails that we send out and really just make sure that we're focused on the recipient, how they can get those storytelling messages in the best way for them.
Really happy to see you as the thought leaders on content, because you specified how content is important for emails. Content plays the spine of emails, and as recipients, people would definitely want to receive relatable content. There is a lot of effort that you're putting on content, and happily stating that your team is actually giving content on all fronts.
Yeah.
Do you have any successful ongoing email workflows that work exceptionally well and saves a lot of time for you?
Yeah, so a couple of examples come to mind that we've worked on recently. One of which is a project we worked on with our business intelligence team. Because Ohio State is so large and decentralized, all of the colleges and units are responsible for handling their own marketing and communication efforts, and that includes email. So they are putting in list requests with our BI team. And there are numerous lists that are coming in at any given time, and the BI team is fulfilling these requests. But we are finding that sometimes there were marketing questions that came through either from the requester or from the BI team while they were working on these list requests. So then they would come to us with those marketing questions, and it would create kind of a triangle of communication between us and the requester and the BI team. So it just kind of bogged down the process and created some miscommunication or confusion and just made the process take a lot longer. So we took a look at how we might be able to streamline this process. So we created a list request form so that people could fill out this form, and it asked both list-specific questions and marketing-specific questions on the purpose of their messaging. So that enabled our team to kind of have some visibility at the front end of the request and get any questions and answers out of the way first before it went to the BI team. And it just gave visibility to everyone involved and really has helped cut down on that process. And it's also given us some opportunity to discuss segmentation with the requester. So overall, it's been a really great improvement to that process.
I think what's also interesting about that is that we then have seen opportunities to maybe combine emails too, where two different people from different units might be requesting a very similar list for a very similar purpose. And so then we can connect those two groups and say, hey, would it make sense to combine your efforts so that your audience isn't receiving two different messages about the same thing?
Yeah, I think that's very true. I think because of how big and decentralized we are, sometimes it can be really hard to coordinate messaging, and it's hard to know what all is going on across the university. So we do have a centralized email calendar that helps with that, but this is definitely another process that helps with that visibility.
Yep.
And then the other project I was thinking of for our email review process, we use Workfront as our project management tool in university marketing, and they have a proofing tool that we use for email review. And this allows us to collect all of the revisions and approvals in one place, and it's also interactive, so you can even check the links on the email, and it's really helped make that process much more efficient, where before, we would send out an email test and we would get feedback via email from multiple people. A lot of times it would be the same feedback, so it just wasn't efficient. So that proofing tool has really helped us cut down on time with email review.
That's great to know. I mean, having a centralized system would definitely help because, as you stated, students would not want to receive multiple emails on the topics that they're interested in. Also, when you have like a huge team or when you have multiple teams working on email as it is, it's important that there is a streamlining between these teams to make sure that not one team repeats the same template as the other. So that's a great thought that you listed of having a central approval and a central system that is always informed about what kind of emails are going to students and how to combine emails at the event of having two or more topics that relate to the students. This brings me to this concept about email design system. So I'm curious to know if the Ohio State University has such system, and if so, can you share some tips on why should anybody build such a system?
Yeah, so I definitely recommend implementing a design system, especially if you work in a decentralized organization like we do, but I think you can really find some workflow efficiencies either way. We use atomic design principles for our design system, and what atomic design is, it's really taking your template and breaking it down into the smallest pieces and parts and using those as building blocks that are interchangeable and just plug into each other seamlessly. So it makes it really easy to add and remove different content modules and creates a lot of flexibility. So when we created this design system, our primary focus was really on maintaining brand consistency across the university, creating flexibility because there are a lot of different messaging needs for everyone in the different colleges and units. So we wanted to create a flexible system that allowed them to manipulate the templates to meet their needs. And then we also wanted to make them usable. So, being decentralized, there are people who send email every day. There are people that have email just as a really tiny part of their job. So we wanted to make sure they were easy to use. And I think we achieved those goals. And we were able to reduce our instances of broken code and troubleshooting, which was helpful. And it's also helped us to just build our emails a lot faster. And one of the things that I liked most about this project was we were able to make sure our templates were accessible, which is a huge focus for us, especially being in higher education. And we just feel good knowing that all of our emails going out, no matter where they're coming from, are accessible to our users.
Mm-hmm. You made the entire process of designing an email system to be just a plug and play job. And if I had just have to sum them up in 3 words, I think it would be consistency, flexibility, and usability across multiple teams in an organization.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what we were shooting for.
Mm-hmm. And this shows the effect on the results, because when you just stated these open rates and click rates a couple of minutes back, it really, now I'm able to understand where the high stats come in from. It's about streamlining your whole process and having some clarity on the plans that you as an organization develop.
I think streamlining our processes has also opened up some time so that we are able to do additional testing and learning and able to dedicate more time to personalization. So I think streamlining not only helps us to be more efficient in creating the emails and sending emails, but also in focusing our efforts on other things so we can improve our email programs overall.
Certainly. That's a very good point. As we are headed over to concluding the show, I would just like to ask a quick question to both of you. So if you both had to pick 5 top email marketing strategies and put them in a marketer's toolkit, what would they be? The whole listener set is looking at you for those 5 best practices that they can use.
Sure. So we both kind of talked about this. So we shared our top 5. Yeah, so what we had for number 1, and we kind of went in order of importance, starting with the most important and cascaded down from there. So our number 1 would be list hygiene, and the reason being, if you don't have a healthy list, I think you can really throw the rest of it away. So list hygiene would definitely be number 1.
Yep, and when I started at Ohio State, that was kind of the focus, is like, let's get in here and clean up the list, because if they're going to the spam folder, if they're getting blocked, like, what's the point of doing anything else? So
yes, exactly.
We really keep our list clean.
And then at number 2, I would say segmentation. We don't say the B word here, blast. we don't like blast messaging. So we definitely think being targeted in your messaging and making sure that your audience matches the messaging that you're sending out is really important to the email program. And then number 3, strategic measurement, and that being just what are you measuring, how are you measuring it, how do you tell what's good or bad? Are your emails performing well? Are they not performing well? So I think having some really good benchmarks in place so you can figure out where to go with your email program and also be able to use those metrics for diagnostics as well as engagement and figuring out, if something is going really well or maybe not going so well, being able to detect that and kind of plan around that to make some improvements.
Mm-hmm.
And number 4, I would say testing and optimization, which really just helps you to figure out what works for your audience and helps you build on incremental learnings over time so that you're always improving your email program.
And we definitely use the strategic measurement piece to build our test and learn plans. So, we have team meetings where we say what's working, what's not working, and then we say, based on this, what do we need to start testing in order to optimize?
Yeah, absolutely. And then number 5, I would say personalization. So, we're always working toward that one-to-one communication and figuring out how we can achieve that to just better engage our audiences and be more tailored in our messaging. So I would put personalization at number 4.
5.
Sorry, number 5. Losing track of my count here.
And if I had to sneak in a number 6, I'd probably say how then email marketing connects with all the other channels. So that's part of my new role in the omni-channel strategy space, is thinking about how email then connects with the other channels that we have out there. So that'd be my number 6 to kind of slide in there.
The best and the easy 6-point checklist, that I should say. And I love the point that you added. That's something off late, even I have been talking around with people, the importance of email in the current digital space, because today there are multiple marketing channels, and you can't deny the fact that email is still a powerful channel, and how it threads with all the other existing channels is a very interesting thing, and it's something that marketers definitely need to understand and implement in their organizations.
Yeah, definitely. I read a white paper. It was about how omni-channel starts with email, and I thought that was really interesting, and it resonated with me, being someone who grew up in email marketing. But I think, usually with an email address, you have some sort of information on that person. It connects you to a person, so you can do things with email and connect it to your other channels that you might not be able to do with social or some others. And so, yeah, it's a place to start in the omni-channel strategy and start just thinking about how you then personalize that experience across different channels or touch points.
Definitely. Email gives you that flexibility to adapt data from any platform, and as you said, helps you in easy targeting as well. So yes, the 6-point checklist is something that any beginner can use, and even an advanced person can use to optimize their operations. Thank you so much, Bri and Ellen. It was a very informative session for me as well, because I've always been curious about how do universities use email as a channel to engage with their current audience, and the different strategies that go into it. I love the way you stated about different touch points, marketing channels, mediums, some organizational processes, as well as best practices. And I'm sure listeners today would have got a very different perspectives, which they can implement into their current businesses as well.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah,
great.
Thank you.
So today's session was a highlight on how email can be used in a very specific industry, such as an education industry, as enough best practices that we can use in the upcoming months of 2020. To listen to more such interesting stories, subscribe to the Zoho Campaigns Expert Diaries. Until the next show, bye-bye.